What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be reading some funny random Reddit stories I found the other day while I set up to see Minecraft World. Please don't make fun of me. I actually have not started a Minecraft World since I was like 8, so please don't cringe at my gameplay. Anyway, thank you so much for stopping by, and if you'd like to share your story, set it to the email below. I'll read them anonymously, obviously. Anyway, let's get into it. The first story is called "The Man in the Dentist Office Who Retired Mid-Phone Call." I was sitting in the dentist's waiting room around 3 p.m. last Tuesday, trying to ignore that stupid citrus-scented hand sanitizer they keep by the check-in desk because it makes me nauseous. This older guy, maybe mid-60s, sat 2 chairs away from me, and he kept fiddling with one of those tiny paper cups they give you. He didn't look nervous, more like someone who was just bored of being alive. His phone rings. Loud ringtone, like old man loud. He answers without even saying hello. Just, "I told you I'm retiring. I don't care if the board thinks I'm bluffing." I pretended not to listen, but the receptionist was out of sight, so there was no buzzing or printer noise to drown him out. Whoever was on the line must have been arguing because he laughed once, real dry, and said, "Buddy, they're still keeping the software I wrote in 92 running. You think they're firing me? They're terrified I'll actually leave." Then he paused and said, quieter this time, "I'm tired. I don't want to die in that building." The paper cup slipped out of his hand and fell on the floor. He didn't spill anything because it was empty. He just stared at it. I think both of us thought he'd bend down and grab it, but he didn't. He said into the phone, "Tell them I'm done. And tell them I'm keeping the mug." Then he hung up and looked at me like he suddenly remembered I existed. I don't know why, but I asked if he worked in tech. He shook his head too fast. "I built the logistics backbone for a grocery chain you've shopped at every week of your life." He said it like a joke, but he didn't smile. People think the important stuff is code. It's not. It's screaming at someone in accounting because they mislabeled peaches as nectarines, and 300 stores panic ordered the wrong pallets. I laughed, and he kind of snorted, then rubbed his eyes. The hygienist finally called my name. I stood up, and he said, without looking at me, "If you ever find something you're great at, don't tell anyone. They'll chain you to it." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded like an idiot and followed the hygienist. When I came out 30 minutes later, he was gone. The paper cup was still on the floor. The receptionist stepped over it when she went to refill the Keurig. I thought about picking it up, but I didn't. I don't know why. The second story is called "My Friend Got Banned from all 7-Elevens nationwide over a Slurpee refill. I swear, on the sacred cherry Coke mixture, this actually happened." So my buddy, let's call him Derek, walks into 7-Eleven with the swagger of a man who believes he is ordained by prophecy to receive 1 free Slurpee refill per day. Why does he believe this? Because the machine doesn't lock, bro. That was the extent of his legal reasoning. He fills up his cup. Not a regular cup, mind you, but the gas can-sized, like XXL, ungodly chalice they only sell on July 11th, and just strolls past the cashier, gives him a confident nod, the kind of nod a medieval general gives before charging into battle. The cashier says, "Hey, sir, you need to pay for that." Derek responds with, "Refill, REFILL," like he's teaching phonics. Cashier, "We don't do free refills?" Derek, "Since when?" Cashier, "Always." Derek, "That's not what corporate said." Cashier, "What corporate?" This is when Derek, my dear friend with the tactical awareness of a potato, calls 7-Eleven corporate from inside the store on speaker. Corporate, shockingly, also informs him that free refills are not a thing. Derek hangs up and announces, loud enough for the taquitos to hear, "Corporate is wrong." At this point, the manager comes out. He's got the aura of a man who has seen someone microwave a whole raw egg at 3 a.m. and is forever changed by it. They tell him he's banned. Not from the store, from all stores. Derek, like, all 7 of them? Manager, 7,000. Fast forward to today. Derek cannot legally step foot in a 7-Eleven anywhere in the country because he tried to save $2.50 in frozen sugar water by arguing corporate policy with actual corporate. He now gets his Slurpees from a Circle K, but where he tells this story proudly, as if he won some kind of retail war. The third story is called, I just accidentally called my new boss Daddy in a Teams meeting. I don't think I'll ever recover from this. My soul has left my body and is currently applying for jobs in another dimension. For context, I, 25M, have been at this new job for about 3 months. My boss, Mark, 50s, very serious, ex-military, is a great guy but incredibly formal and intimidating. I'm still in the desperately want to impress him phase. So we're on this end-of-day Teams call. There are about 10 of us. The call is wrapping up, and my dog, a giant, lovable golden retriever named Bear, starts whining by the door. He needs to go out, and he's getting impatient. I'm trying to be professional, so I mute my mic and whisper to him, Okay, hold on. Daddy's almost done. Or at least I thought I was muted. In reality, I had just unmuted myself to say, Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. The second I finished that sentence, my voice, now in a sickeningly sweet baby talk tone, rang out crystal clear across the entire virtual meeting. Okay, hold on. Daddy's almost done. Dead. Silence. The Brady Bunch grid of faces on my screen froze. I saw one colleague's eyes widen in horror. Another quickly put a hand over her mouth. My boss, Mark, just stared into his camera with an expression of utter uncomprehending confusion. I'm pretty time stopped for a solid 10 seconds. My brain short-circuited. In a state of pure, unadulterated panic, the only thing I could think to do was to double down on the professionalism. I cleared my throat, looked directly into the camera, and said in my deepest, most serious voice, My apologies, that was for the dog. Then, without waiting for a response, I said, Thank you, Mark. Goodbye. And clicked. Leave meeting. Faster than I've ever done anything in my life. My heart is still pounding. I have not reopened Teams. I'm considering changing my name and moving to a remote cabin in the woods. My dog is now happily chewing his toy, completely oblivious that he has just ended my career. Wish me luck for tomorrow. Our next story is called, I prayed to a Greek goddess as a joke, and it actually worked. So this happened 1.5 years ago during the summer. I had just dropped out of university, and I was struggling to find a stable job to pay the bills, scraping short contracts in a museum, gift shops here and there, when they needed someone to sub for an employee on leave holiday. Sometimes I worked 7 days per month, so times were tough. In parallel, one of my best friends who had just graduated needed a permanent employment contract as soon as possible so she could renew her visa, and just had an interview with a company for a position with a decent pay and tons of benefits. So we were talking about our employment adventures and our serious need for luck when I joked, Hey, maybe we should pray to Tyche, the Greek goddess of fortune, for some of that luck. For context, my friend and I, mostly me, but she still loves it, are huge Greek mythology fans. So it didn't come out of nowhere. Then I thought, fuck it, what do we have to lose? I grab a candle and a lighter, as well as some bread. Light up the candle, throw a piece of bread in it, and bend over like, Hey, Tyche. So here's the thing. My friend's just had an interview, and she really, really needs that job. So if you wanted to give fate a little push, that would be really nice. Also, and you don't have to, but my life is a bit crappy right now, so if you had some good luck to spare, that would be very much appreciated. Okay, thanks, bye. And I blew the candle. End of the joke. Literally, the next day, I get not one, but 2 phone calls. The first one was from the museum HR director offering me a full-time contract for 3 months and scheduling an interview for a permanent position I was interested in. The second one was from my grandmother, who had spontaneously decided to send me 500 euros, $587, so I could have a less stressful summer while I was looking for a job. 2 days later, my friend texts me she got the job, meaning she doesn't have to worry about her visa status anymore. Needless to say, Tyche got another piece of bread and an enthusiastic thank you. The next story is absolutely crazy, and I thought it was so funny when I was reading it. It's called The Story of the Doctor Who Became a Multimillionaire by Sewing Monkey Testicle Slices into People. I wish I was joking. So, I fell down the weirdest history rabbit hole last night, and I honestly can't believe this isn't talked about more often. We always romanticize the 1920s as this sophisticated era of Gatsby parties and class, but it turns out the richest men in the world were literally lining up to get monkey junk sewn into them. There was this Russian-French surgeon named Serge Voronov. He wasn't some back alley crackpot. He was actually a highly respected doctor who studied under Nobel Prize winners. But he had this obsession with aging. He basically decided that the reason men get old and tired is because their testicles stop working as hard, I guess. His solution wasn't vitamins or exercise. No, his big idea was to take testicles from baboons and chimpanzees, slice them extremely thin, like carpaccio, and graft them onto the testicles of human men. The logic was that animals have this raw, primal energy, and by attaching a piece of that essence to a human, the human would absorb the youth. And the craziest part is that people bought it, hook, line, and sinker. Voronov became an absolute celebrity. He performed thousands of these surgeries. We're talking about world leaders, ultra-wealthy industrialists, and politicians paying the equivalent of a house to get this done. He got so rich, he rented out an entire floor of one of the most expensive hotels in Paris with his entourage and eventually bought a castle. He even had to set up his own monkey breeding farm in Italy because he was running out of chimps. Imagine being a neighbor to that castle. The funny thing is, it worked for a while. It was basically the most expensive placebo effect in history. These guys would walk out of the clinic with a sliced chimp ball in their sack and feel like absolute kings. They claimed their memory was sharper, they had the energy of a 20-year-old, and obviously they bragged about their performance in the bedroom. Biologically, it was nonsense. The human body usually rejected the tissue and it turned into scar tissue within months. But the ego boost was enough to convince them it was working. There was even a cocktail named after the procedure called the monkey gland that you can still order in some old school bars. It honestly makes you think about all the biohacking stuff we see today. Like that tech millionaire Brian Johnson who was swapping blood with his son recently. We like to think we're so much smarter now, but honestly, humanity hasn't changed at all. Rich people are still terrified of dying, and they will pay any amount of money if you sell them a good enough story about eternal youth. It's just wild to think that huge decisions in the 1920s were probably made by guys sipping brandy who secretly had a piece of a baboon inside their pants. Anyway, just wanted to share because it blew my mind that this was considered peak science back then. Definitely makes you wonder what medical trends we do now that people will laugh at in 100 years. Our next story is also pretty funny, and it's called My Roommate Preheated the Oven for 7 hours because he thought it needed to stay warm like a pet. I lived with this guy for about a year, and honestly, I still don't know how he made it to adulthood. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but the man has the confidence of someone who has never once experienced consequences. Anyway, this happened a few months before he moved out. I came home from work on this insanely hot day and immediately felt something was off. The apartment was hotter than outside, which shouldn't happen when the AC is literally on. I thought maybe it broke again. Then I walked into the kitchen. The oven is on. Not like someone used it recently. I mean, on full blast, the kind of heat where you open the oven door and it feels like your eyebrows might disappear. Except the door was already slightly cracked open because he likes how it makes the room warm. There's no food inside, no pans, no timer, just a glowing red oven that has apparently been working overtime since the Jurassic period. He strolls in from his room like he's returning from a vision quest, sees me standing there sweating and goes, "Oh, don't turn that off, I'm preheating it." I'm like, okay. Preheating for what? He shrugs and says, I don't know yet, maybe chicken. But ovens take a while to get to the right vibe, so I just keep it warm all day. All day. He turned it on at 11 a.m. It was almost 6:30. This man basically ran a small industrial furnace inside our apartment because he didn't want to wait later. Meanwhile, our electric bill is already insane. I've been trying to get my financial life together, budgeting properly, checking my credit, even switching to a Fizz debit card that reports to bureaus so the adulting side of my life doesn't spiral. And Kevin is out here slow cooking the entire kitchen because he doesn't like waiting 15 minutes. When I explained how dangerous it was, he honestly looked confused and said, if it was bad, wouldn't the oven, warn us? I don't know. Maybe the warning was the apartment turning into the surface of the sun. He moved out eventually. The oven survived. I'm still recovering. I thought I'd switch up the theme for our last story here. This one is just so wild and weird. I just had to share it. It's funny reading it, but if I was actually there, I'd be traumatized for life. Anyway, thank you guys for watching the video and have a happy holidays. I hope this is a start to an amazing new series. Thank you. The final story is called My Childhood Friend Had a Weird Uncle. I had a friend who lived right across from the park, so I was frequently knocking on her door to hang out, and so was a lot of the other neighborhood kids. I remember one day during summer she had family over, so I thought she wasn't going to be able to hang out. But not only was she able to hang out, she had to bring her uncle along. I think at the time she was 14 and he was 11 or 12. He looked like a blonde version of Arnold from the Magic School Bus. But instead of being really dorky, he was really obnoxious. He also exuded this very odd energy. But that might have been the fact that my friend introduced this kid as her uncle. I was just weirded out that it was possible someone younger than you could be a superior. And this kid really wanted to make sure that he was better than us because he was an uncle. So we had to listen to him like he was an adult, call him uncle, etc., etc. The rest of us kids were pretty weirded out. In the midst of being introduced to uncle, I saw a bird's nest tucked into a gutter, and I got excited. One of my friends happened to be pretty tall, and I asked if I could get on her shoulders to look into the nest to see if there were any baby birds. She obliged, hoisted me up, and sure enough, 3 baby birds that looked newly born were in there. After I got sat down, I announced my discovery, and Uncle wanted to see for himself because he thought I was lying. He demanded my tall friend to hoist him up too, and with a shrug she got him as high as I was on her shoulders and leaned him close to the nest, which he proceeded to rip off of the gutter. We all backed up after Uncle scrambled off of my tall friend, grabbed the nest, and proceeded to throw it again into the backyard. We saw a baby bird go flying out of the nest, and a nearby robin chirping its head off. We all ran towards him as he went to the nest again before bolting towards the park. We found some nearby gardening gloves and scooped the baby bird back into the nest, somehow miraculously alive, before realizing there was only 2 birds. I freaked out and told everyone that a bird was gone. We watched as Uncle was now on the other side of the park fence, and we took off running. This park was nearly 2 acres with basketball courts, tennis courts, a couple playgrounds, and a bunch of open grassland. In the midst of this, Uncle was throwing random shit around. Tree branches, rocks, handfuls of sand. All of which, if it was small in size, we thought was the bird. My friend, who had the garden gloves still on from scooping the bird into the nest, dug through the garbage cans the best she could. My tall friend bolted across the different courts looking for the bird. My brother and his friend went over to the playground areas to investigate, trying to chase down Uncle. And me and my other friend slowly walked through the grass, trying to find the bird, wherever his thrown stuff landed. We all were getting nowhere, regrouped, talked about where this bird could be. But before my tall friend pointed Uncle out, he had hopped the fence, and he was not running anymore. He was walking like he shit himself. That awkward, wide stance waddle. We all looked at each other, realized what was happening, then immediately hopped the fence to go after him. We finally surrounded him and told him to give us the bird. To our horror, he pulled not his pants, but the waistband of his underwear open, reached his hand in and pulled out the baby bird, dead with a broken neck. We all immediately ran over to the house and told his parents what happened, but instead of caring that their son might have some bird bugs in unsavory places, they were more concerned that in the chaos, his glasses had broken and the blame got turned to me because If I hadn't looked at the bird nest, Uncle wouldn't have done any of this. Me and my brother had to walk Uncle and his mom up to my house and tell them what happened, while the mom demanded my mom pay for a new pair of glasses for Uncle. My mom laughed, told her absolutely not, and that her kid was a psycho, told his kids to come in for dinner, and shut the door in her face. I wonder what possessed him to do that.